I am out at sunset in the garden, just harvested my first sweet onion of the year that I'm excited about. And I thought I would just share a few thoughts about Tom Bombadil, since that seems to be the thing all the cool kids are doing. And I wanted to jump on the bandwagon, even though I don't have much to say about Tom Bombadil. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's because the publication Vanity Fair just recently released some images of the character Tom Bombadil as he's going to be portrayed in the Amazon Prime Video show Rings of Power, the season 2 of Rings of Power. And Tom Bombadil is a complex character that elicits strong reactions from a lot of people, either when they're reading the book or just the thought of him being committed to the screen in some way. He obviously wasn't in the original trilogy of films, even though you could argue that there was room for him there. And I think it's fairly brave to attempt to adapt Tom Bombadil to the Rings of Power. It's set in the second age of Middle Earth, and Tom Bombadil professes to be, if not the oldest, among the oldest things in Middle Earth. So it makes sense that he would be there. What's unclear to me, and maybe this is my rusty lore knowledge, I gesticulate at you with my onion, if Goldberry's going to be there. And I say this because I'm actually far more interested in Goldberry than I am in Tom Bombadil. I didn't see her in any of the images. I didn't really see any signs of like copious amounts of water lilies or wildflowers in their home. But that's what I'm going to be looking for. And I really hope that they manage to capture some of his complicated flavor, because the whole Tom Bombadil episode in the book Fellowship of the Ring almost feels like something from another story that's been placed into this narrative. It's tonally quite different. And in fact, there's a lot of ways that Tom Bombadil and indeed Goldberry herself break the mold for Middle Earth. There's a lot of ways that they... Sorry, I got distracted by a warbler. At least I think it's a warbler, unless it's a chickadee. I can't tell from this distance. But there's a lot of ways that they actually kind of don't fit into the cosmology that Tolkien himself created for his world. So it's okay that they feel out of place, because I think they're meant to feel out of place. They're meant to feel like an eddy in a stream. And if the stream is time, it's there in this place of timelessness, and the rest of the world is just passing them by. It's a very folkloric and mythic moment, and that's why I appreciate it. I didn't appreciate it as much when I was younger and reading the books for the first time, but I definitely appreciate it now that I know more about the psychological processes and functions of folklore and mythology. And I can appreciate that the different tones and the different levels of seriousness and playfulness that we experience in general in Tolkien's work, while an editor probably would not like it today, and I certainly couldn't get away with it in my books, I enjoy that it gives some breadth and depth to the entirety of the human experience as expressed through his creative works of literature, rather than sticking with something that fits more tidily into a niche category. And our traditional tales do that. Our indigenous tales from Europe and from Africa and from most continents that I'm aware of have that balance of horror and joy and childlike wonder and wisdom all blended into one story, because at the end of the day, that's life. That echoes life. We don't really have clear trajectories, and we don't really have categories that we can place our lives into, despite the urging of our society to more or less put us into those little boxes. So I'm hoping that we see some of that versatility from Tom Bombadil and hopefully Goldberry. I don't know why I'm so drawn to Goldberry, other than she feels so pagan to me. She feels like, I mean, she's the river woman's daughter. Who's the river woman? To me, she is, and I say pagan in terms of she feels of the earth. She feels like a spiritual being directly related to nature. And that's why I'm so fascinated by her. Now, Tom does as well, but okay, look, I'm just going to say it. Tom is a man, okay? Like, he wears clothes. We don't know where he came from. Not that it says Goldberry doesn't wear clothes, but we know that she came from this mysterious being called the River Woman. It's almost as if she is the personification of water and thus fertility, because if you don't have water, you're not going to have crops and you're not going to have anything for the wildlife to browse. Even if you're depending on animals like deer and rabbits for your sustenance, you're certainly not going to have agriculture. It's like he dipped his toe into venturing into some territory of, again, exploring some indigenous European folk beliefs and customs by having this humanoid personification of the natural world be present. And I just feel like the language he uses to describe her, and my onion agrees, the language he uses to describe her is much, there's so much reverence there, and there's so much beauty and so much attention paid to the word choice that it is evocative of the beauty of water, the stillness, the nourishment, the replenishing and refreshing and reflective qualities of water. And I don't know, it's just my personal bias. I don't have the same exact reverence for Tom Bombadil. I think he's great. They're apples and oranges. I don't really even need to be comparing them. But that's what I'll be interested to see, if she's committed to film in some way, and how they're going to approach Tom's character. Because as a lot of other people have pointed out in the photos, he looks a bit grim. And he's described as like dancing and singing, and he's merry. So it will be fascinating to see what side of him, and indeed what role he plays in the Rings of Power, because he's an incredibly powerful being that some could argue is underutilized in Tolkien's tales. But I think he's also made it clear that he exists outside of this time and this space, and he's done that by choice. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. In case you wanted to hear them, I'm going to go inside and eat this onion with my dinner now. So thanks for joining me.